GDP, the ultimate slave training metric. Hey everyone, welcome back to another deep dive where we cut through the noise and get to the heart of how the system really works. Today we're unpacking one of the most telling metrics thrown around in economic talks, and we're going to see it for what it truly reveals about the world we've built. Picture this, a number that's hailed as the ultimate sign of progress and prosperity. But what if it's actually tracking something far more revealing about human behavior under pressure? Stick around because by the end of this, you'll never look at those growth headlines the same way again. We're talking about how everyday choices, time spent, and labor exchanged paint a picture of adaptation to a very specific kind of setup. If this episode challenged how you see the economy and the daily grind, hit that like button, share it with someone questioning the system, subscribe for more unfiltered deep dives, and drop a comment with your thoughts. What part hit hardest or what else should we unpack next? Your support keeps these conversations alive. Let's start with the raw idea that hits hard. GDP measures the volume and speed the slaves using the slave masters made up and with near zero costs produced currency, and how perfect the slaves have adopted and give their time and labor for the endless available more and more worthless tokens from their masters. So in the end, it's a metric how well trained the slaves are. That framing might sound intense at first, but let's break it down logically piece by piece, because the truth emerges when you follow the incentives and the flows of value. GDP, at its core, tallies the market value of all final goods and services produced in a given period. Sounds neutral, right? But dig deeper, and you see it's deeply tied to the circulation of currency that's created with almost no real cost by those at the top of the monetary pyramid. Think about it. In a fiat system, new units of currency can be brought into existence digitally or through policy decisions at negligible marginal expense compared to actually producing tangible wealth like food, tools, or shelter. This isn't creating real resources. It's expanding the token supply. People then pour their hours, their energy, their creative effort into chasing these tokens to cover necessities, taxes, and debts denominated in the same units. The more seamlessly this loop runs, the higher the volume and velocity of transactions, the higher the GDP figure climbs. It's not measuring true prosperity or human flourishing. It's measuring how efficiently labor and time are funneled into this monetary machine. And here's where the training aspect comes in. When your survival and opportunities depend on participating in this formal, taxed, monetized economy, you adapt. You show up, you produce, you consume, and the system counts every step. Unpaid work at home, time spent in genuine leisure, or building things outside the official grid. Those barely register or get ignored entirely. GDP doesn't care about the quality of your life or the sustainability of what you're doing. It just logs the flow. The better adapted you are, the more your efforts feed the aggregate, the stronger the signal of a healthy economy. Now, let's address the common pushbacks head-on because they crumble under scrutiny. Critics often say, well, this is all voluntary exchange in a free market. People choose to work for wages they value more than their alternatives. Sure, on the surface, but let's reason through the constraints. When the currency itself is managed from the center, when taxes are compulsory and must be paid in those same tokens, when regulations shape what counts as legitimate activity, the choice is heavily tilted. It's like offering someone a path through a maze where all exits lead back to the starting point run by the designers. True voluntary exchange would happen in a system without that top-down token creation and extraction. Here, participation isn't purely free. It's conditioned by the need to earn depreciating units to meet obligations created by the very same system. Another counter often thrown out is that GDP is just a practical tool for tracking activity, not some engineered metric of control, and that fiat enables complex trade and growth beyond what rigid standards could. But follow the logic. If expanding the token supply boosts nominal GDP without corresponding real output, you're inflating the measurement itself. Prices rise as more tokens chase the same goods, eroding purchasing power, an invisible transfer from those holding the currency to those creating or first receiving the new units. This isn't neutral facilitation. It's a mechanism that rewards proximity to the source of tokens and penalizes everyone else through reduced real value. Over time, it distorts decisions, encourages short-termism, and funnels labor toward maintaining the illusion rather than building lasting wealth. Free markets thrive on sound signals and honest exchange, not on perpetual expansion of a diluted medium. Then there's the claim that destruction or waste can still show up positively in GDP, like after disasters when rebuilding kicks in. Critics call this a feature for measuring response, but that's the broken window fallacy exposed. When resources go to repairing damage, they're diverted from what could have been new, additional production. The economy isn't richer. It's scrambling to restore what was lost. GDP might tick up from the activity, but real wealth has declined. The slaves, in this analogy, are kept busy patching the system while their masters print more tokens to fund the fixes. It measures busyness, not net gain. Logic dictates that true progress comes from creation without prior destruction, not from cycles of loss and mandated recovery. Even the idea that fiat flexibility prevents crises falls apart. Artificial credit expansion lowers signals like interest rates below natural levels, leading to malinvestment. Projects that seem viable only because of the cheap tokens but collapse when reality reasserts. Busts follow booms, and the response is often more token creation, perpetuating the training. Workers and producers must adapt again to the new distortions, giving more time and labor to stabilize the very tokens losing worth. This isn't stability, it's managed dependence. Let's turn to some core themes that emerge from all this. One is the nature of value and coercion. In a genuine free market rooted in voluntary cooperation and sound principles, production and exchange build on real savings and preferences. Labor trades for something of durable worth. But when tokens are multiplied at near zero cost, the exchange becomes lopsided. Your hours buy less over time, yet the pressure to keep trading them intensifies to cover rising costs. GDP captures the speed of this treadmill perfectly. Higher velocity means better trained participants keeping the wheel spinning. Another theme is what gets left out. Household efforts, community support, personal development, environmental health, these don't fit neatly into the transaction logs. By focusing on monetized flows, the metric trains us to prioritize what can be counted and taxed, sidelining what truly sustains. It's a subtle shift in priorities, from self-reliance and creation to integration and compliance. Consider, too, the endless growth imperative. GDP must rise to signal success, pushing for more consumption, more activity, even if it means churning through resources or tolerating inefficiencies. In systems influenced by Bolshevism or Marxism, central planning tried to dictate output directly, but the underlying issue persists across setups where authority-oriented control over money and mandates shapes behavior. The token system scales it globally, making adaptation feel natural. A striking way to see this, imagine two scenarios. In one, people produce abundantly for direct needs and voluntary trade using a medium that holds value because it's scarce and market-chosen. Activity reflects real coordination. In the other, endless new tokens dilute holdings, taxes extract a portion, and GDP rises with every frantic exchange to stay afloat. The second scores high on the metric precisely because the training is effective. Slaves using the slave masters made up and with near zero costs produced currency chasing more and more worthless tokens. Quotes from thoughtful observers over time echo this without needing names. One classic insight: measuring everything in short except that which makes life worthwhile. Another: destruction doesn't create wealth. It merely reallocates and often wastes. And on inflation, it's the fiscal complement of expanded control, redistributing quietly what direct means cannot. These cut to the reality that aggregates like GDP obscure the unseen, the opportunities foregone, the independence eroded, the real costs borne by those giving their labor. In the end, this isn't about rejecting all measurement but about seeing clearly. GDP serves as a powerful indicator of how well the system has integrated people into its logic, how fluidly time and effort convert into circulating tokens that benefit the creators first. For those seeking truth, the recommendation is straightforward. Look beyond the headline number. Track real purchasing power over decades, the share of genuine savings versus debt-fueled activity, the balance between formal compliance and independent creation. Build skills and networks outside the pure token chase where possible. Question the incentives that make endless adaptation seem inevitable. Question the setups that count busyness in a depreciating medium as victory. Prioritize principles of honest exchange, value creation without coercion, and metrics that reflect human well-being rather than system throughput. That's where real freedom and progress lie, not in higher scores on a training log, but in lives lived with purpose beyond the endless tokens. Thanks for joining this exploration. Until next time, keep thinking critically and acting accordingly.